Back during the John Kerry for president campaign, John Kerry was running against George W. Bush, and it came down to Ohio, and the votes got ultimately counted in Kentucky on the vote counting machine that or by the company that was providing secure email to Karl Rove and the Bush White House. But that's a whole other story. But the Ken Blackwell and all that stuff. But there was a bishop or a cardinal, a Catholic cardinal. His name was Raymond Burke, who came out and said that Catholics should not take communion if they voted for Kerry, because Kerry was in favor of a woman's right to choose to have an abortion. And therefore, he was, whatever the official Catholic word is for, an apostate or what, I don't know the language, but whatever. Well, Cardinal Burke just got kicked out by the Pope Francis. He was part of the office that nominates bishops and things, and it's called the Vatican High Court, the Apostolic Signatura. He's still a priest and everything, but he just, he no longer has this incredible position of power. I just find this fascinating. This Pope, I still have some problems with Catholicism, with any organized religion. And there's no rational organized religion. Anyhow, back in 1964, I just played the clip for you a few minutes ago of Lyndon Johnson in 1964 agonizing with 3 different advisors saying, I really don't want to do this Vietnam War thing. And all 3 of them saying, oh, no, you got to do it. You got treaties. You got, here's why you got to do it. Okay. So then in 1968, 4 years later, a bunch of us were out in the street. I was out in the streets in 1968 chanting, hey, hey, LBJ, how many kids did you kill today? Getting tear gassed and pepper gassed on Grand River Avenue in East Lansing, Michigan. All across the country this was going on. And you had the police riot in Chicago at the Democratic National Convention. The Chicago 7 came out of that, as I recall. But what we didn't know, what America didn't know, is that Lyndon Johnson had actually negotiated an end to the war in Vietnam in 1968, which would have saved the lives of another 1 million Vietnamese and 10, 20, 30,000 Americans. I don't know how many Americans had died at that point. It was substantial, but it got a lot worse as time went on. And Richard Nixon went over, or his advisors went over, his campaign went over to contact the Vietnamese and said essentially the same thing that Reagan's advisors said to the Iranians when they took the hostages, is don't negotiate with this president during this election, because I'll give you a better deal when I become president. Now, in the case of Reagan, it was that he would sell weapons to the Iranians who had, the Shah had an entirely American, military, and they needed spare parts. And in fact, they cut the deal in the summer of 1980, the Reagan campaign. Bill Casey cut that deal. And by the fall of 1980, they were already delivering via Israel spare tires for the F-15s, I think they were, or whatever they were, F-14s, for the fighter jets that the Iranian army had. So we were already, doing that deal, and that's why President Bonnie Sauter is writing about this in the Christian Science Monitor just in March of this year. But when Lyndon Johnson was president in 1968, the CIA had intercepted the conversations between Madame Tu and the Vietnamese and the Nixon administration, or the Nixon campaign. Nixon was running against Vice President Hubert Humphrey in 1968, and Lyndon Johnson had negotiated peace between South and North Vietnam. And all they had to do was go to Paris to ratify what he had negotiated. And once the word of that got out, Hubert Humphrey would have won in a cakewalk. Because if you took Vietnam off the table, people loved what Lyndon Johnson was doing. He cut poverty in half in America. It was the second New Deal. So when the CIA comes to LBJ, and this was just released a couple years ago by the LBJ Library, The CIA comes to LBJ and they say, you know, we've got these tapes of Nixon and his buddies talking to the South Vietnamese saying, don't do a peace deal with LBJ before the election. Wait until after the election. And so LBJ calls up Everett Dirksen, who was arguably one of the two most powerful, in fact, Dirksen office building is named after him here, just 3 blocks from where I'm broadcasting from. It's where Bernie's office is. I think. I'm pretty sure he's in the Dirksen building, not the Hart building. Whatever. Anyhow, it's just a couple of blocks from here. And when the CIA says this to LBJ, he calls up Everett Dirksen, the senior statesman, Republican in the Senate. And you just heard a minute ago him saying to Dirksen, you got to tell them, you got to speak to them and do something, try to do something. Here he's calling back because nothing's happening. Here's what LBJ said.
Here's the latest information we got. The agent says that they just talked to the boss in New Mexico, and that he says that you must hold out, just hold on until after the election. We know what Chew is saying to them out there. Yeah, we're pretty well informed on both ends. Now, I'm reading their hand, Everett. I don't want to get this in the campaign. That's right. And they oughtn't to be doing this. This is treason. I know.
This is treason. So Richard Nixon came to office by treason. Ronald Reagan came to office by treason. And George W. Bush came to office by his brother knocking 80,000 African Americans off the polls, off the rolls, off the voting rolls in Florida so he could get close enough that it could be thrown to the Supreme Court. So I stand by my assertion, and I'm amazed that the right wing has not picked this up and gone ballistic at me about it, but I think it's because they don't want to talk about it. That we have not had a legitimately elected Republican president of the United States since Dwight Eisenhower. And up until Dwight Eisenhower declared his candidacy as a Republican, most people thought he was going to run as a Democrat because he had always been apolitical. He was a military man. And you heard the 1940 Republican, Wendell Willkie, talking about how I stand in favor of, organized labor, and I stand in favor of Social Security, and I stand for regulated capitalism, and we need to regulate the banks, we need to regulate Wall Street. That was the Republican candidate for president. So anyhow, Nixon commits this treason, and then he goes out and he gives this speech. This is Nixon's 1968 RNC speech. Oops, hang on just a minute. There we go.
For 4 years, this administration has had the support of the loyal opposition for the objective of seeking an honorable end to the struggle. Never has so much military and economic and diplomatic power been used so ineffectively. And if after all of this time and all of this sacrifice and all of this support, there is still no end in sight, then I say the time has come for the American people to turn to new leadership not tied to the mistakes and the policies of the past. That is what we offer to America.
You get this? He's campaigning on LBJ's inability to end Vietnam.
You realize that we face the stark truth that we are worse off in every area of the world tonight than we were when we've had enough of big promises and little action. The time has come for honest government in the United States of America. And there is only one answer to such a record of failure, and that is a complete house cleaning of those responsible for the failures on that record.
Richard Nixon in 1968, speaking at the Republican National Convention, while he's sabotaging the peace talks with Vietnam, attacking LBJ, just listen to the beginning of this, for not having peace with Vietnam.
For 4 years, this administration has had the support of the loyal opposition for the objective of seeking an honorable end to the struggle. Never has so much military and economic and diplomatic power been used so ineffectively. And if after all of this time and all of this sacrifice and all of this support, there is still no end in sight.
Well, you know how the rest of it goes. So, no end in sight because Richard Nixon made it that way. And he became president in 1968, and he kept that war going for another 4 years. He did what George W. Bush told his biographer, Mickey Herskowitz, in 1999 that he would do. He said the mistake that my daddy made was having a 100-hour war with Iraq. He says, if I get to be president, I'm going to be a war president. And I'm going to have a successful presidency. In other words, he was going to privatize Social Security. And you recall, right after the 2004 election, in January 2005, he said, I got all this political capital. I'm going to try and privatize Social Security. And Cindy Sheehan went before John Conyers' commission and committee in the House and basically quoted Mickey Herskowitz with George W. Bush saying that. We don't have time to play the clip, or do we? Here you go. Play it.
As a matter of fact, in interviews in 1999 with respected journalists and longtime Bush family friend Mickey Herskowitz, then Governor George Bush stated, one of the keys to being seen as a great leader is to be seen as commander-in-chief.
Seen as.
My father had all this political capital built up when he drove the Iraqis out of Kuwait, and he wasted it. If I have a chance to invade, if I had that much capital, I'm not going to waste it. I'm going to get everything passed that I want to get passed, and I'm going to have a successful presidency, end quote.
So there you have 3 illegitimate Republican presidents, all of whom used the death of Americans in war to further their ends.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
This is such an indictment of the Republican Party. And then I debate these guys like Edmund Wright. And what do you have to offer the American people? Well, we'll do away with Obamacare. Really?